just a while ago, Arrowhead made a big nerf to melee. Like a big nerf. So the thing is, like, you can't do, you guys see that, right? You can't do anything to chargers anymore with melee weapons. Even the stun lance just kind of bounces off. There's nothing, right? So it used to like stun it, and then you could also deal damage to it, which was a really fun thing. So first of all, let's talk about why I think this is a very big issue and why I think this was very unwarranted and it was just overall not needed at all. So when there's a patch happening or something, or a balance thing, right? Everybody expects some of the things to be changed. Like, that's okay to shake up the meta. And mostly what that really means, guys, is that they're going to touch some of the items that are maybe super overpowered, which in this game really doesn't happen that much, or some items that are underpowered for a very long time and they want to shake up the meta. And that is what Alexis did mention in the interview as well, that he wanted to introduce weapons and items to the game that would essentially shake up the meta from time to time. Not just introduce, but like rebalance some things if needed, right? But mostly like create new items. He even mentioned that they didn't want to go back to old items and just waste time on remaking them. Instead, they would prefer to make new items, which is fine, right? Now, the reason why this nerf doesn't make any sense whatsoever is because this is a very niche playstyle. It just goes to the fact that sometimes it feels like they can't really help it but nerf something because for the sake of nerfing, right? And don't get me wrong, they've done a phenomenal job lately at changing some things up. Mostly there's not any, you know, annoying nerfs and so on. So there's definitely a change when it comes to their behavior, when it comes to balancing in general. But why did we nerf the melee? This is a very niche playstyle. I barely know anybody who uses melee builds, right? I, from time to time, you guys know, absolutely love using, you know, melee setups, but even I don't use it frequently when I'm playing on max difficulty, right? I mess around with it. I'll make a fun build or two, and I'll show you guys that it is possible to clear, for example, max difficulty with the melee weapons solo, right? But that takes a lot of practice. That takes a lot of skill. That takes a lot of hours put in to actually manage. You need to understand the enemies. You need to figure out how and when to rotate, when to actually use your melee weapons and whatnot, because it's not as effective as you would imagine, right? The biggest thing about this and why it was so surprising to me is melee is actually viable for mostly one faction. You're not going to pick up a melee weapon and you're not going to be fighting bots, okay? That's simply not going to happen. I mean, you can try it, but you are going to be absolutely deleted, to be honest. And that's going to be it, right? So why is it that we're nerfing items that are extremely niche and that do not hurt the game? What's going on there? Like, why is it happening? Nobody requested. Do you know anyone that said, let's nerf a melee weapon? Let's just nerf all of them, or the chargers, or whatever it is. Please leave the comments. Let me know. Do you know anybody that was saying melees are overpowered, they need a nerf? I personally know nobody like that, right? Everybody was just having a good time, just chilling, and niche play style. Sometimes you would see people use it, but that's about it. Not to mention the fact that, for example, you take the flag even, which is a blue stratagem. It's a blue stratagem. You have a blue stratagem, a support weapon, and essentially you're nerfing the whole melee playstyle? Why? What is the reason? Shouldn't it be the other way around? How do we make melees more fun in the game? Maybe we should edit the animations. Maybe we should add a little bit of damage. Maybe we should add different ways to attack enemies. Maybe we should add blocking with melee weapons, right? Like previously, when there was a charger, I could like break its ankles like this, even with heavy armor. I could run up, tag him up, he would be stunned, right? It was so cool. It was just a cool playstyle. Now, it's completely useless against the one faction that it was okay against, right? It wasn't overpowered, by the way. It wasn't game-breaking. Nobody ever complained about it, but yet it gets slapped around. And the question becomes, once again, why is that happening? And I've been trying to like think about it, figure it out, and I don't know the exact answer. That's why I will say, though, when I did mention this to Alexis, he did seem like surprised. From what I could tell, I don't think maybe I'm wrong here, so I don't want to speak for him, but the vibe I got was he didn't even know that was a thing, probably. So there's probably different teams working on, I know that Alexis takes a lot of time to work on, for example, items like the war pack, easily my favorite item in the game at the moment, right? But there's probably different people working on different things. That's absolutely fine. But I do hope they revert this, because this is not good. Like, this makes no sense. You know what I mean? Do the devs really listen to the community? Yeah, they see all the feedback. They watch our streams. We have conversations. They're very open to a lot of the things, man. They really, really are. For example, Steam diving was an idea that, came up when I was talking with one of the devs. And they were like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And they tested it out. So they do listen for sure. There's no doubt about it. But like, this kind of nerf is weird to me. It's weird to me, right? And I would love to hear your thoughts on this, right? Like, in the comment section. Why do you guys think this happened? Why do you guys think this is necessary at all? And do you guys think that nerfing niche playstyles like this makes any sense at all, right? Now, instead, what I would have done, right, is like from a perspective of a content creator or just a gamer who has over 4,000 hours in this game. For me, it would be like, let's give this melee weapons in general, a dedicated slot. Let's do that. Now, you know what happens when you do that? Instead of nerfing them, the game becomes more fun. Now, you might ask, why is that? Because I'm not limited to picking my secondary weapon. Oh, do I pick this gun or this melee weapon? Which now, nobody's gonna, even the people that were using it as niche, they're not gonna pick this shit anymore. Because it was fun to fight those chargers 1v1. It was effective, actually. It was pretty good. Was this broken? No. Did anybody ever complain? No. But it was good. Like, look, it's already right here. I don't have the correct build for the melee, but still, you guys can see how many flaws it has as a playstyle. It's not easy to use. This is a milsim game. The nerf was in accordance with how the developers view the game. Obviously, the milsim thing comes up over and over again. And I do believe that if we really, really, really wanted to break that down, we could debunk that whole milsim thing within 10 minutes, right? That's a completely different conversation. We might make a video about that in the future and just discuss it. But honestly, dude, half of this shit, like when it comes to melee, really doesn't make sense. But as I was saying, let's do something opposite. Let's add a dedicated slot for the melee, dude. Let's do that. Let's give it a new animation where, imagine like you could use this melee weapon, but not only with this animation, but you could like kind of charge up like by holding down. It would like pull it over its head, then you could slam in the ground and do massive damage to enemies, right? Because it does have an arc thing on the head, so it would also cause a little arc explosion. Things like that. There is no point on touching up items that are very, very niche. It would be fine. Let's add a new shield to the game. Let's focus on making melee more viable. The thing is also, you got to understand, let's say you buff the melee right now. Let's say you gave it 50% more damage as of right now, this second. It will still not be the picked playstyle because it's not as powerful, dude. That's all it is. And I think this, a lot of the times, right? Devs have this fear of making something too powerful. But the reality is, in this game, you cannot make melee in its current state powerful. You can't. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm saying you physically couldn't make it overpowered. Even if you gave it 100% more damage, nobody would use this anyway. It would still be a niche playstyle, right? Now, obviously, if you give it 1,000% more damage, which would never happen, then yeah, but I'm talking in the realm of reality. You know what I mean? You can't make this playstyle overpowered by just buffing it a little bit. Nevertheless, they went ahead and nerfed it. I'm really hoping that they honestly think about this and revert it. Maybe start revamping the melee combat a little bit. I believe we did have this conversation as well. Add 1 or 2 new animations. Give it a dedicated slot. Up the damage by like 30 to 50%. Nobody would complain about that. I promise you, nobody's going to find it broken. And what that will do, as I was saying, is I can now bring my secondary weapon and a melee weapon. So overall, it makes the gameplay loop more fun because I have more tools to mess around with than just, make a decision of, oh, should I pick up a now nerfed melee weapon, by the way, against the only faction that it matters against, which is the bugs, or I pick up, and by the way, it doesn't do anything to chargers anymore. However, I can pick up a secondary that shoots essentially a nuke. The decision is made beforehand. You see what I mean? It's just made beforehand. And that's the thing, because it's so weak compared to other tools. So, and it already was before this nerf. So why did we do that? I just can't figure it out. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what is the reasoning? And if the nerf is coming down to the believability again, which is like, oh, you know what? There's this big charger and it's unbelievable that a stun lance is stunning it. There's so many. We literally are watching a dude hover around, and you go through freezing teleportations on your ship where you get frozen for a few seconds and then you get unfrozen, and you're playing a video game where you can't shoot through bushes a lot of the times. The bushes block rockets, okay? That's not believable. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are not believable in this game. So I don't think this... I get the argument of believability to some extent, but I don't think that it should be weaponized as something that justifies nerfs like this for niche playstyles. Even if you look at it, if we're being real, from a believability standpoint, which is something that, you know, Arrowhead brings up a lot, bro, you can justify it with tons of things. This is a stun lance, right? So it has arc. So when it hits that armor, the arc kind of goes through their body, right? Like, there's so many things that you can say through lore that would justify a stun lance doing what's in the name of the item, and that's stun. No matter what it is, maybe it was, you know what, it just in the heat of the moment, they were like, yeah, you just nerf it. Nobody uses it anyway. But even if it was that, that's even scarier, because if already nobody's using it, why are you doing it, right? So once again, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I apologize for the rant, but you guys know I love melee weapons, man. I enjoyed them. I didn't find them OP. I'm sure that most people would agree with that. I just found them fun. It was a new challenge to go in solo on max difficulty, or even with friends. We even had gameplays where everybody was playing Lance and we tried to clear the highest difficulty, and most of the time it didn't work. I made it work a few times solo, but it was tough. It was very, very tough. So I would love to hear your thoughts about this nerf in the comment section. And yeah, let's discuss it. Throw in some ideas on how the melee combat should be changed. Throw in some good, you know, maybe some options for how to adjust the animations, or maybe the damage, or how it's going to work with the loadouts in general. Does it need a dedicated slot? I would love to hear all of that in the comment section.